with this breaking news that we have been tracking. There's been a bomb threat on board an Iranian passenger jet plane over the Indian airspace with final destination to China, and this has triggered a high alert. In fact, the Indian Air Force jets have scrambled to actually take care of the fact that this particular Iranian aircraft is out of the Indian airspace. The passenger jet is now moving towards China, we are told, and security agencies are currently monitoring the plane. So this is something that had created a lot of furor when it comes to bomb threat on board a China-bound Iranian passenger jet. This was flying over the Indian airspace. Indian Air Force jets were made to scramble because of this massive threat. Abhishek, my colleague, is joining me on the broadcast. Abhishek, we are told that now, finally, this Iranian passenger plane is out of the Indian airspace. What more do we know about this?
So we know that initially there was this emergency landing request that was made by the pilot of the plane, which has took off from Tehran, and it was on way to China's Guangzhou. However, ATC denied the permission because there was this bomb threat that was made, and probably that would have sealed one of the largest international airport, Delhi. And so Delhi ATC decided to divert the plane to Jaipur, which was relatively less traffic and probably could have been logistically better off to manage. However, the pilot did not respond to that request and decided to not land Delhi and leave the Indian airspace. And we have, as the trackers have shown, the plane has diverted from Delhi to the eastern part of India, going from Bihar to Tripura, and now probably it is in the Myanmar's airspace and very well on track of its Chinese destination. So we don't know yet whether that bomb threat that was made on the plane was real, there was some hostage crisis, or it was just one unruly passenger which tried to threaten and create some suspicion in the plane of a bomb, and this whole crisis has happened. So we'll have to wait for the more details as and when it comes. For now, the plane has left Indian airspace and it is on way to its Chinese destination, Guangzhou.
Right, Abhishek, stay on with us. I'm also now joined on the broadcast by my colleague Anand Narasimhan, who will actually take us through what exactly was the kind of threat that we're looking at. Anand, over to you. You know, now that we're told that this particular Iranian passenger plane is out of the Indian airspace, but having said that, we're talking about a bomb scare here. What are the details when it comes to that, and also the movement and the trajectory of this entire aircraft that it took?
Well, good afternoon. Now, currently, this is where IRM 081. This is the flight in question. It's an Iranian airline or Mahan Air flight. It's an Airbus A340-642 with a registration EPMMR. It's flying at an altitude of 37,000 feet with an estimated landing at Guangzhou at 4:40 p.m. local time. Right now, this aircraft is over Myanmar, and it is heading to fly across Myanmar's airspace and straight into the Chinese airspace, which is the Yunnan province that you see, and it will head towards Guangzhou, which is again a port city. But here is where the drama happens. The drama is that as this aircraft entered Indian airspace and it was nearing Delhi, the pilot makes a phone call or reaches out to the ATC, not a phone call, but reaches out communications with an emergency communication to the ATC, Air Traffic Control in Delhi, and request for an emergency landing citing a bomb threat. Now, if you see the trajectory of the flight, it's done a go-around near and its approach to the New Delhi airport, because the ATC denied permission in New Delhi, and because this is a busy airport. An aircraft which lands with a bomb threat, then the security protocols say that you got to shut down the runway and you got to block all the air traffic here. So what the ATC suggests is that he takes the flight to Jaipur, which is just a half-hour movement away at that altitude, and it could land in Jaipur. But the pilot refuses to land and takes the aircraft on its intended trajectory towards Guangzhou. So what's happened after the communication of a security threat or a bomb threat and request for an emergency landing, and then the pilot says, no, I'm going to continue, is something which now we are still awaiting details. Now, in the meantime, what's happening is the LCH has light combat helicopters have been dedicated to the country, to the Air Force, and inducted into the Air Force by the Raksha Mantri, and that's happening in Rajasthan. But Sukhoi jets were scrambled from the airbase in Rajasthan to try and give cover or to try and escort this flight wherever it is intended to go, because it is on Indian airspace and it's a threat. So the idea is that these flights, the Sukhois, were dashed to send immediately on emergency to try and escort this flight, and it looks like that the Sukhois have ensured that the flight continues on its path and flies over Uttar Pradesh, all of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and then into Bangladeshi airspace, back into Indian airspace with Tripura, and then flies over Tripura, and then goes across into Myanmar's airspace. So over the last 1.5 to 2 hours that it's been on Indian airspace, there has been a lot of drama that's happened, because there are visuals of Sukhois being scrambled from Rajasthan to try and once again track this passenger aircraft, that is W581 or the IRM 081 Mahan Air, Iranian airline, from Tehran all the way to Guangzhou. So this is the flight path. As you see, it's flown all over the Indian airspace. After this communication with the ATC, there has been no further communication with respect to an emergency or a threat by the pilot, and the flight has carried on in its intended path. Now, what's happened inside the aircraft, we'll know once the flight lands in Guangzhou, and there will be an update that will be taken. Why is it that a bomb threat or an emergency landing request was made citing a bomb threat, and why is it that the pilot then decided to carry on? So this is something where, is there an unruly incident that's happened? Is there a passenger who's tried to misbehave and claim a bomb threat, and then has that passenger been brought under control, and has the situation been brought under control inside the flight? We'll have to wait and watch, because we still do not know the details here, and we haven't got any further communication or update from the ATC or even the security machinery, which would have been clearly tracking this flight. Now it's out of Indian airspace, so it's not India's concern what happens to this flight IRM 081 at the moment. But the Indian authorities would want an update as to what happened in that flight and why this call was made to the Delhi ATC.
Oh, absolutely. Considering the kind of drama that we have witnessed over these couple of hours, of course, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. Anand, thank you so much for actually providing our viewers that perspective, and also taking our viewers through that entire flight path on how this particular Iranian passenger flight took to the Indian airspace. Now that it is out of it, let me take this across to my guest who's also joining me on the broadcast. Our Group Captain MJ Augustine Vinod joins me. Group Captain Vinod, Anand also was making some very, very strong points. The fact that there was an SOS distress call that was given to the ATS. However, the suggestion of landing in Jaipur was not really adhered to by the pilot in this case.
Absolutely. But, a couple of points that come to my mind. Firstly, as you can see behind me, if you can take me in a half screen or something, this is where the aeroplane is, and it has moved slightly forward maybe.
I'd request my producers to please Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so it has moved slightly forward into the Chinese airspace. But what Anand was covering, a very important point, is right behind me. On my here, where my finger is Indira Gandhi International Airport. And this is where he did that 4 orbits to land at Jaipur. And he probably was thinking whether to land or not land, what transpired between him and the cabin crew. All that will come out in the inquiry. But there is something called LRBL. So there is low risk bomb location. So if a bomb has been found on board, what cabin crew and other crew do is they take the bomb to the least risk bomb location, which is more often than not is the tail portion of the aircraft, and they try to reduce the risk by putting stuff around it, etc. So maybe the LRBL procedure was being enacted when he was orbiting, trying to land at Jaipur. That is my understanding of. Otherwise, there is no other way a pilot would or could know the bomb threat on board. Secondly, timing is important, something which Anand alluded to. This particular flight path went north of Jodhpur when the people on board this particular flight had what kind of thought process to time it in a manner when we were inducting the light combat helicopter at Jodhpur.